Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 100 of the Citrix Session. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. Bill Sutton is with me. Bill, we made triple digits.
We made triple digits. I know. Hooray. Pop a cork or something. Valentine's Day, no less.
Valentine's Day made triple digits. Took us, we started in January-ish of last year, maybe December. So it took us about a year and a month or so. It's got to be 2 years. Yeah, that math doesn't add up. It's got to be at least 2 years.
No, it's been at least 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I'm still excited about doing it. We pick new topics every week, and we got a pretty good listener base. We're hoping to grow that as we continue to market what we're doing over here at XenTegra, and hopefully we're creating a looking for the word archive of good content for people to go back and listen to later. I know I refer customers to this stuff all the time. I don't know if they listen, but I definitely refer them to it and say, hey, that's a good topic. Here's your answer. And I go listen to that podcast.
Yep. I do the same thing.
Happened last week in a meeting we were hosting for a client.
Yep.
Well, okay, that's it. That's all the celebrating we're doing. Now we're moving on to the topic for today. You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Well, on that note, Heather Tatt over at Citrix put out a blog on January 25th, so a month ago. Well, half a month ago. And it was a looking back kind of blog. So with the title of it, Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, just in general, it's both the service and the on-premises solution. Looking back on 2021 and 2022 to talk about, what they accomplished in 2021 and 2022. That's the key to this, right? Is I think we used to have this development cycle, and then we had iterative development, and now we just have constant development, especially the as a service stuff.
Yeah, the as a service stuff, they roll it out as it goes along. So it's constant, like you said, just like about everything else cloud, right?
Well, yeah, that's part of the idea, as long as it doesn't break. And occasionally It does. And I'm not saying Citrix per se, but everything breaks. It's all human. Hey, I got a secret for you. It's all human beings that do all this.
Right.
At least for now. Well, maybe not all, but a lot of it's human beings. And I don't know about you, but I've got faults.
Well, absolutely. We all do.
Got lots of faults. All right, well, let's start with talking about what Heather talks about here as in the past, stuff they did in 2021. And the first one, and probably most important, minus security. I think security today is the most important, but happy users, and talking about what Citrix did in 2021 around improving the user experience by evolving the HDX concepts, which includes, redirection and protocol and, all kinds of things. Bill, what's this first one covering that they did?
Yeah, to your point, it's all about really the end user experience. And this is about the enhancements they made to HDX in 2021, which there were many. The HDX forms the kind of the overarching concept for the ICA protocol, the overarching feature set for the ICA protocol, which underlies everything that HDX does. Basically, they in this article, they talk about improving audio redirection and playback with HDX adaptive audio, optimizing throughput with adaptive throughput. And of course, that kind of encompasses the EDT. And then also, they've made some pretty good improvements, which I've actually seen on a couple of projects we've done for 3D related workloads, improving frame rate delivery, which has really made a positive impact on some of these larger, beefy graphical type apps. And then the last thing was they really significantly increased the frames per second for 4K monitors. I haven't had any experience with 4K monitors in Citrix yet, but apparently they've really improved it and decreased the bandwidth requirements. Yeah. So lots of stuff.
The real overarching message there is trying to make a virtual machine accessed over remoting protocols and magic look and feel as close to a high-end local machine as possible.
Yes, closing the gap between what we see on a physical, regular, fully provisioned endpoint versus remoting protocol into a virtual desktop running in a data center or the cloud.
And for those listening, the gap will never be closed, but
Right.
it will be to the point where it's more than acceptable to get the job done. I'll give you a brief example. This morning, XenTegra has founded a nonprofit that is a technology firm that works with other nonprofits. I was at their office this morning and I had to do a couple of meetings. And before that, I was actually streaming some audio while listening to music. And I did it in the virtual desktop, and I did it intentionally that way without knowing. Let's see, I did it without knowing. And when I realized I was doing it that way, I didn't care because it worked great.
Yeah, works great. Absolutely. I've run meetings from my virtual desktop like this,
Yeah.
without any issues, audio and video.
Yep. Well, let's talk. Let's get technical for our listeners a little bit. Was it redirected? Was it offloaded to the local machine, or was it done in the virtual desktop and just so fast that you didn't know it?
It was offloaded.
Offloaded, right? That's the last great barrier that until we change the speed of light, we're probably going to have to offload.
Right.
All right. Next one is accelerate your cloud transformation with PVS for Azure. This one matter to you?
I haven't done this yet. I've been thinking about, standing up a PVS server in my lab Azure tenant, but a lot of folks, especially in large organizations, really stick by PVS. MCS doesn't require the network component, doesn't require a separate server. It's arguably simpler, but a lot of folks have been doing PVS for years, like the ease of being able to roll back and roll forward very quickly, just by flipping a setting on the vDisk, and that's definitely a much quicker roll back and roll forward than you would get with MCS. So that's one of the reasons a lot of folks like this, and frankly, it's just there are a lot of admins out there that have just grown up on PVS and want to continue using it in the cloud, and this enables that.
Yeah,
in Azure, I should say.
I kind of quit PVS, I don't know, 5 years ago for MCS. However, the legacy of it, the ability to take it into multi-clouds, including your own private data center and maybe colo data center, the ability to rely on that technology, it makes about as much sense as ever, or as it did in the beginning, because it's solving the same challenges it solved in the beginning.
It is. It absolutely is. And, it's just much simpler from a rollback, roll forward perspective. I think that's what really folks like.
Yeah.
On the ability to easily move the workloads from, one location on-prem into the cloud or vice versa, just simply by copying a vDisk and importing it.
Yeah. And who knows, potentially in these modern day IaaS solutions, you may actually control some or most of your network layer in that fight between the PVS admin and the network administrator.
Right.
Plus, it's all just probably fast as all get out.
Yeah.
Has really changed the game.
Yeah, we're doing a project for a customer right now. Now it's not a cloud customer; it's an on-prem customer that we're doing PVS in a hyper-converged environment, and my consultants are doing it, and they're of course very up to speed on PVS. But it's kind of funny when we are having conversations, because I haven't touched PVS probably in 4 or 5 years, being out of the day-to-day, and we didn't do much of it even 4 years ago, as much of it. But it still has its strong proponents. It still makes sense in a lot of cases. But it's amazing, that they've come this far with it and enabled it for cloud, because I really didn't know that was ever going to happen, to be honest with you.
Well, I love that it creates a agnostic hyperscaler image management solution that's pretty powerful, really.
It is.
Okay. The next one on the list for 2021, things that got done, resiliency around service continuity. I know this has come a long way from the early days of Citrix as a service. Give us the highlights of this one.
Yeah, there's a video here that probably explains it better than I could, but I'll give it a shot. This is essentially enabling the endpoint that is your let's just use a Windows PC running the full workspace app. Essentially what it does is when you log in, it caches tokens for your apps and desktops, so that if the cloud control plane goes away and you have a direct network connection to your workload, it will allow you to launch it if the cloud is so to speak down. They also extended this was available only for the Workspace app, the full Windows and Linux Workspace app, but they've now extended it to the Chrome and Edge browsers with an add-in. You have to have certain versions of the Workspace app for it to work properly. You still have to have the Workspace app installed, but for those users that are used to using the web, they can get the same functionality with this add-in. But it does require a little bit of massaging, so to speak, to get it to work right with the web add-in.
So if the Workspace service, the backend database, if you will, is down, I still know how to get to where I got to last time, and it'll try to take me there.
Yes, if you open up the Workspace app in an outage situation, it will actually tell you you're operating in outage mode. And then you don't really need to do anything special. You click on your app. If you're running the full Workspace app, you click on your app, and as long as you have network connectivity to the VDA, which is the server or desktop where your workload resides, it will connect you there too.
Now, what if I don't? Am I going to get routed through the cloud connector somehow and still make it there?
You can, but only if that cloud connector is up properly, can you get there that way. It's really designed, or if you have Rendezvous enabled, that's another possibility. You can still get there through the cloud connector, but that's not ideal.
It's enlightening for me. We have some of our technical guys run our customer success calls now, and one of them was scoping out something for a client the other day, and he talked about the cloud connectors basically twiddling their thumbs all day long until you get into this scenario, and all of a sudden they better be ready to do some work.
That's right.
It was great. I got to learn, and that's where we're at in all this. I'm learning from these podcasts. I'm learning from listening to my own team talk. It's great to be the old guy. All right. Next one says, simplify upgrades with VDA upgrade service. I haven't experienced, I don't get to experience this much anymore at all. But yes, this is definitely something that was a long time coming.
Yeah, this is just something like you said that can upgrade the VDA automatically maybe, so that you don't have to go worry about taking the image out and taking it out, putting it in maintenance mode if you're doing PVS, or creating a new snapshot and upgrading it. It can do it on the fly. Automatic updates of the VDA, but it does depend on the machine catalog type. I haven't really delved into this. This is still in preview. But I haven't delved into this personally myself to see the ins and outs of it.
Yeah. And I don't know for a lot of admins if they want it to auto update, but knowing that it could, if you wanted to, is valuable.
Yeah.
So the next one also says preview, and this is streamline image management with image portability. You and I just talked about a minute ago, doing that somewhat manually by moving that virtual image around within the PVS farms and sites. What is the portability service about? Yeah,
it's really about, like you said, images across hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. So you can move your image, like if you've got it on-prem and you want to move the image to Azure or AWS, you, rather than just copying it up there, you run the portability service, and it essentially it's almost like, you remember the old days, I guess, where you might have to convert an image from VMware to Xen server, or probably more likely the other way around. Or from Xen server to Nutanix or some AHV, something like that. This kind of automates that process from on-prem environments to the cloud. Again, it's in preview. This is a one you have to sign up for. I haven't actually tested it, but I'm familiar with one of the people that helped put it together. And he's talked a lot about how it really makes it simpler to move your workloads from on-prem into the cloud.
So I find this one really interesting because the competitors on the VMware side, they've got the benefit of having the VMware ESXi platform on premises, in colos, in clouds, hyperscalers as a native hypervisor. Citrix having the ability to do this and taking on the task of doing it native for the hyperscalers. That's their way to overcome this disadvantage and possibly make that need to keep the hypervisor as a consistent across the different platforms, make that go away.
Exactly. That's really part of what it's designed to do.
And the reality is we're just talking software and drivers and basic images. They're all the same, but it's not that far-fetched to say, okay, why do you have to have the same set of tires? It doesn't matter what kind of tires the car has. We'll move it with whatever tires you want them on. Sorry. That was an Andyism automotive example. Support for Microsoft Windows Server 2022 and Windows Client 11.
That's pretty straightforward. Obviously, I actually built in my lab, I built a Windows 11 VDA and worked just fine. With 2109, I think I had 2112 running and it worked just fine. So this is just all about Citrix supporting the latest releases of Microsoft's operating system software.
I thought Windows 10 was the last one.
Yeah, didn't we all?
Until the marketing guys needed to change the story, and then all of a sudden it became 11.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, there's lots of new stuff under the hood. The biggest thing I noticed was the start button was now in the middle of the bottom of the screen instead of the left. So that was a little different.
Yeah, they finally gave in to that UI that the other guys have been, multiple other guys have been moving us towards.
Exactly.
Let's see, this next section talks about rollout Citrix managed Azure for all Citrix virtual app and desktop service editions. So not the on-premises, but the service editions. I don't know what this means. Help me understand.
Yeah, I mean, this is really about creating a bank of service credits, if you will, managed to Azure. They can deliver DAS workloads, simplifying the management. I'm not all that familiar with this because I don't know that we've done it, to be honest with you, but this is really about spinning up things from the marketplace, kind of similar to the next one as well when we get to that. Mm-hmm. You can use your own consumption funds in your account balance to offset the operating expenditures, or Citrix can bill you for it. So this is kind of where you're spinning up, or you're buying your CVAD environment with a managed Azure, almost like an Azure subscription attached to it. And you can use those credits that you buy to fund the consumption costs versus paying them as you go, kind of similar to what most folks would do if they just signed up from the Azure Marketplace.
This is kind of where tech and the business part of the business all comes together.
Yeah.
And it becomes part of an offering. I don't know what size customer this fits, but I'm sure there's some out there where this makes sense.
Yeah.
And then that gets us to the next one. That's easy deploy of desktop as a service. Desktop as a service. And I want to stop and highlight a word that's missing there. Experience desktop as a service simplicity with quick deploy, but at no point in time does it really include managed desktop as a service. That's where people like us come into the mix. We can still.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the quick deploy is just an easy deployment interface. They called this something different before, but now it's expanded. You can very quickly deploy them using the quick deploy wizard. The customer can use their own subscription, or they can leverage what we just talked about, the managed Azure, where they're billed where the credits are applied, or they're billed for consumption. It just makes it easier for them to spin up the desktops, quicker and easier to spin up desktops quickly. Kind of that's redundant, but you get the point.
Yeah. So the next one, we could have used this a couple of years ago, but it's good to hear now. Enable new environments to use Azure Active Directory group-based support versus having to tie back into a traditional on-premises type of Active Directory.
Exactly. That's just using Azure AD groups. You can assign your users to manage the environment using Azure AD groups rather than having to leverage your traditional on-premises AD users and groups. Makes it a lot easier to manage.
Bill, if you were a brand new customer rolling out a brand new IT shop, Azure Active Directory all the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the indicator for that is going to be obviously somebody doing brand new is going to do Office 365, and you're going to have Azure AD out of the gate just for that. I mean, you don't have to have Office 365 to use Azure AD, but you have to have Azure AD to use Office 365. So most folks are going to go that direction for email and applications, and that's going to get you in the Azure AD family. And Microsoft has really done a lot with Azure AD. This is one piece, of course, where Citrix has taken what they've done and allows you to leverage the group memberships. But you've also got Azure AD Hybrid Join now, where you could actually join workloads to Azure AD as opposed to having to have a traditional domain controller to join them to. There are some limitations, but over time they'll overcome them.
Yeah. One of my technical fork in the road where I could have gone more technical in my career would have been after doing Active Directory support at Microsoft. I wonder if this move towards Azure would have made my career or broke it. I'm not sure.
Well, one thing's for sure, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
Literally all the time. Every couple of days there's something new. There's a couple of YouTube channels that really go deep into this. They, guys that work for Microsoft that have created a YouTube channel that he covers things every Sunday. He posts a video of what's changed, and it's always about 20 to 30 minutes worth of content. So that shows you how quickly things change. Now, a lot of it doesn't affect us in the EUC community. Some of it's about containers and other things, but the point is, it changes fast. So I think you'd have to stay on your toes to keep up with it big time.
Well, and that's the reality of digital transformation, which you've heard me talk about a lot lately.
Yeah.
In a digital workspace strategy, all those changes matter to us and the customers who are working with us on their digital workspace transformation.
Yeah, but I think the customer that you were meeting with last week, I don't know that whether or not they really, a lot of folks don't necessarily get the digital transformation, or not digital transformation. Most customers get that now, but the concept of a digital workspace, being able to access apps and desktops, whether those apps or desktops are virtual desktops or virtual apps, or whether they're SaaS-based apps, have one place where you go to get to everything. Really, is what it boils down to.
I'll go as far as to say most customers don't totally have a digital transformation strategy in place. They're doing bits and pieces along the way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that includes us.
Yeah.
We're digital transformation, digital workspace company, and we're struggling. Not struggling. I guess one part of it is we're so busy doing this for customers. Ours is happening ad hoc, which isn't the way to do it.
Yeah, it's taken a backseat to dealing with and addressing customer needs. And I don't think that's uncommon, frankly.
But for anyone listening, and if you're having meetings with me, you're going to start hearing this. Tell me your digital transformation strategy in 100 words or less, and you should be able to do that. And if you can't, then we need to help you get there. And then once you start figuring that one out, then how are you going to access it, AKA digital workspace strategy? You may have heard me say, actually on a call maybe this morning, that if a customer truly just wants to use VDI to get to their digital transformation and whatever colo or data center or cloud they're putting it in, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. The question is whether that's really whether that's really digital transformation per se. It's part of it. But really, it depends on how you view digital transformation. In my view, digital transformation is about getting all of these paper-based and manual-based processes digitized, as it were. I don't know what your thoughts are, but getting a lot of that process, those workflows, documents, and everything into more of a digital platform, so that people have ready access to them, easy access to them when they want it, and so forth. That's a big part of it, but I'm sure I'm missing a lot more.
Well, so it depends on who you're talking to and what phase they're currently in. The first phase of that was getting the manual stuff that's done without technology into technology.
Right.
And then for a lot of companies, they're in phase 2 of that, which is how do they get it into cloud services and things that are less dependent on them, and they're not hiring a whole workforce of technology people. A quick example, my second company I worked for was a shoe retailer, and I think there were almost as many IT employees in the corporate office as there were other employees. That is a problem and shouldn't have to be the case.
No,
they were digitally transforming a legacy business and doing a great job of it. At what point does it become where a lot of that stuff that 10 people maintain turns into 1 or 2 people, work with a service to get it done?
Right.
All right. Number 10, last one on the what got done, not the last one, but the last one on this list is protect your corporate data with expanded support for app protection.
Yeah, well, app protection is essentially we've talked about this on previous podcasts, the ability to protect sessions from keyloggers and screen captures and those sorts of things. And I think it originally was made available in the service, the virtual apps and desktop service with the workspace in the cloud, but now they're bringing it on-prem for those that have storefront on premises. So I think you still need the CVAD service, but if you put storefront on premises with your ADCs on premises, then this will be extended into sessions launched therefrom.
What do you think the adoption of app protection has been by customers?
That's a good question. I'd like to think it's high, but my gut tells me it's probably medium level adoption.
Yeah.
A mid-level adoption, maybe.
But you and I have been, thinking for years, if we could just get some of this things that app protection does in place, we'd finally get over the total ability to, provide a secure working environment. I think people like you and I have asked for that for a decade now, but yet now that it's here, we haven't implemented it because maybe we didn't need it as bad as we thought, or maybe we just we're kind of taking it for granted.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And the other piece of this that's not really mentioned here, but the other piece of it's not really app protection, it's more monitoring, is the session recording pieces that go along with this, and the ability not just to protect from keyloggers and screen captures, but also to record sessions where strange things are happening, or along with triggers that start recording when it sees something unusual. That's protecting the customer as well, and we definitely don't see much adoption of that.
Yeah. Now, taking number 10 and comparing it to number 1, happy users, is that the problem and why we haven't done this?
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. Part of it is that. Part of it is I don't know that it's widely known that this is capable of this. But yeah, I don't think your average happy user is going to really be affected by the keyloggers, but the screen captures, and I know that there were some challenges with that in the early days, where folks could do, like a Snagit or a print screen or what have you. Yeah. And I think that sometimes folks have gotten used to being able to do that when they need to, and they can't, then you get the unhappy user potentially.
Right. Yeah, it's like keeping that key under the rock in the backyard. Someday you realize that's not a secure way to do it because everybody's looking for it. But then that day you need it, man, you wish you hadn't done it.
That's right.
All right, almost done here. The next section talks about preparing for the next long-term service release, LTSR, by implementing the current long-term service release. Is that what I'm talking about here? The 2112 current release? Is that? Oh, that's the current release that's going to start pointing our ship in the right direction towards the coming LTSR. Yeah,
they haven't. I don't think they've actually decided on which version in 2022 will be the LTSR. But I think what they're saying here is get ready for it by deploying 2112, which is the latest current release, into pre-production environments. That way, you'll get customers will get familiar with it and understand what's changed and test their apps and all those sorts of things. And then when the LTSR hits, which will be based on code probably that comes out subsequent to 2112, they'll be ready for it.
Yeah. Okay. And let's decipher 2112 CR stands for year 21, month 12, current release.
Correct. Exactly. And then LTSR is the long-term service release. When they release it, it'll have a similar version number to 2112, probably. Whatever the version number is that becomes LTSR. And then I believe that's supported for 5 years under regular support and then 5 years under extended support, unless that changes.
Yeah.
And an important thing is that last sentence that you highlighted. So go ahead.
Before you go there, if you're running as a service, Citrix, does that LTSR conversation mean anything to you?
I don't. It does only in the sense that you may want to consider having a certain VDA on your endpoint, or on your on your server, or not your endpoint, but on your server or your hosted desktop. You may want to have the CR version of it there just for support reasons. But a lot of customers go ahead and move it forward so that the two align. But it depends on your industry. It depends on your posture. A lot of customers want to stick with the LTSR version of the VDA on their VDA, just to stay with a supported release and with and not having to update it frequently.
Yeah. And I guess what I was really highlighting there, which I don't know that you necessarily said, is if you're on the as a service, it's LTSR or whatever the current release is. Current release is, that's what you're on, whether you know it or not. And
Right.
if it's good for you, great. If it's bad for you, too bad. That's what you're on. And for the most part, it's going to be better for you. And if something's broken, somebody else will fix it and you just keep rolling.
Yeah. I mean, the server side or the control plane, which is what we call all the components that are running in Citrix Cloud, Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service, that's going to be iterative and up to date and at the latest release pretty much always. But and if you want to get the latest features, then you need to go with the latest CR on your VDAs. But a lot of customers want to stick with an LTSR VDA again, so they don't have to update them frequently. They know they're a known commodity; they've been tested. Particularly healthcare are going to stick in those type of stick with the LTSR versions.
Right. All right. Getting started, covering this up. What happens next?
Well, one thing we should mention is which is I think is the paragraph before, is that 7.15 LTSR is end of life in August of this year. So obviously customers should take a look at that. That would be I believe that would be the first 5-year end of life. So it will shortly thereafter go out of support. But probably need to start looking once the new LTSR is announced, start looking at getting an upgrade, moving that to the latest version. Obviously, if you're as a service, you don't need to worry about any on-prem components, which might be storefront if you have storefront on-prem, or obviously the VDAs may need to be upgraded. So reach out to us if we can help.
Yeah. Not that hard these days compared to old days, but there's still there's a lot to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And
if you get into a bad spot, you're going to want somebody there with you. Somebody who's done it before. So Bill, that's it, right? That's what Heather, I think it was Heather, looking back up here. Yeah. Heather wrote in this article, good stuff. And it just continues to highlight where the stuff is going and how challenges are being solved and continue to be solved, and honestly moving faster than they did in the old days when it was a on-premises install.
Much faster. Yeah, much faster. I mean, it's a quarter release, and whereas it was probably once or twice a year before.
I bet in some cases weekly or daily, and we don't even know it. It just
yeah. In the cloud, you're getting weekly or daily. On the on-prem world, it's quarterly, but even that's faster than it was because of the cloud, I believe.
Yeah, I think we went from iterative development. We went from a code base that lasted 5 years back in the day to iterative, yearly, maybe even monthly quarterly developments. And now the cloud is developing faster than that, and the on-premises stuff, perpetual solutions, kind of just come along with it and happen as fast as you can upgrade them, Mr. Customer.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. All right, Bill. Well, thanks. It's good to have you on here for the 100th, and
yeah, it's great.
Doing at least another 100 more.
Yeah, let's keep them going.
We got to find some young whippersnappers to bring in and let them take some of this off our plate.
Yeah, we do. You're right. We need to get somebody that's new to it or relatively new to it and hungry and eager. Not that we aren't. I try to stay up with this stuff as much as I can, but you're right. Us old guys probably need to start bringing some younger blood into this thing.
Well, we brought Ben on.
We did.
How do you do that though? How do you bring in guys that didn't start with WinFrame?
Well, you bring them in within, at the level they started. And maybe they started with, presentation server. Maybe they started with when it was XenApp, and they just take them forward from there. We can help color commentary the old stuff and let them take the new stuff. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's kind of like me teaching my kids to drive a manual transmission car. It wasn't that hard, and now they have an idea of what driving a car in 1970s was like. That's right. It's what I learned on. Yeah. Well, I think the key there is they wanted to learn. Yeah, that's right. That's always the key is as you've said it before, to be curious about technology and curious about the technology space you're in and beyond. Goes a long way towards the kind of person that can attend these and add value to these types of calls. Yeah. All All right, sir. Well, I appreciate it. And I'll
Yep.
probably be talking to you later today. Have the rest of a good day anyway.
You too.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.